So basically what that means is while it's easy to hold mid and get clams, it's hard to actually do something with it. So the team that's able to kind of put together a more intentional, a more well-executed special-based push usually is the team that's able to do well here. All right, cool. So we see double Splatling coming out of the Krew, which is a really good team comp for holding down the map. They do have some good pushing specials. On the other side, we see a much more aggressive team comp coming out of the Salts. So basically, the Salts is looking to get picks.
Honestly, they need the speed to get up. I mean, they don't really have anyone to with a brush on that team that or regularly uses a brush. That or they're keeping some secrets from us. They could very well be.
The weapons that they're playing, you're right. Like they're really not the kind of weapons that you would attribute to being the ones that can push really well. But if they can't get the picks, their team comp's not really going to work out that much. But as you get taken out by Emmett, is going to put a stop to any kind of early push right there. But right now, there's just a lot of picks back and forth and no real clams. So
there we have a breakage. There you go, and that was Zorre coming through, and definitely effective with that Splatling to get the breakage, and they will draw first blood in top 24, which, I mean, it took us a long time to get here. It took everyone a long time to get here. You're talking to someone that drove 16 hours from Philadelphia. So,
oh, geez.
Yeah, no, it's definitely all worth it, and it'll be more than worth it for one of these two teams, as Knowledge with a power clam, but is going to have to stave off a little bit of a push from because that is a lot of yellow in midfield.
Yeah, there's a lot. Well, that double mini comp right there. So basically the comp that the Krew is playing right now, they have two Splatlings, and that is going to be a lot of paint control. Then they have two splash damage weapons with decent range. So you have two weapons that are going to be able to use splash damage around corners, which this map has plenty of to take advantage of all that ink control. But the
Zorre again. Yeah, the double mini Splatlings, there you go, just picking people off right and left. Double. One splat ain't enough, Jack. You better make it 3. Zorre slammed him down here.
Yeah, well, that splashdown jump in was a little bit confusing for the Krew right there, and that did allow the Salts to be able to take the lead. Now, something that I was going to mention also is the fact that when it comes to just one-and-done pushes and clam blitz where you only throw one football in, doing it at the beginning of the game is actually really nice because of the clam spawn system, the way that the beginning of the game works. There's really no clams for the enemy team to use as a follow-up push. But now that we're further into the game, that singleton clam that got put in by the Krew did really give the Salts an opportunity to kind of have a stronger push than if they just kind of like, gone for that one and done right at the beginning of the game. Now that it's all over though, the Krew isn't good. The Salts isn't going to be able to really get any kind of free, we'll just, make this push while the Krew is at some kind of like automatic disadvantage. They're going to have to do a lot more. And if there's anything we know about Splatoon, it's that you can't really win with a small lead. This is a game about the biggest game-winning push, and if there isn't a lot of points on the board, either team at any time can just do something huge.
And here you go. They have pretty much everything on their side of the field, but they are going to have to eventually turn that yellow into blue if they want to continue on and push on with to press the initiative. A couple power clams out. There's one just kind of sitting there, but not able to get to it is Bad Emmett, even though he gets the lead. And I do have to say it was a good effort that we saw on the defensive end, even though the Salts have taken the lead for the time being.
Yeah, Emmett was at least able to
wait a second.
Alive.
Now they take the lead back, and there you go. And I was just about to say, I mean, perhaps it was Nezzy and Zorro with that double Splatling compilation being able to get back and kind of hold off the push. It was that triple that really kind of allowed them to stave off to weather the storm.
Yeah, this would have been a really small push if it wasn't for the fact that Tetra's got picked off right there at the end, because that Tetra was the last thing in between the Krew and more points, and now that they've turned into a wipe, they're putting in so many more points. So what should have been only a push to really 70 has now turned into a push of 34, and this could be a game-winning push, especially like we talk about. It can be pretty difficult to actually get a real push started on this map. So the fact that the Krew was able to have a lead up to 34 with not that much time left in the game, that makes this a very large mountain to climb for the Salts.
Gets picked off by Leaf, and excellent work. Gonna collect all the clam. Oh! And, well, yeah, no, I was, it's bad enough I have you cutting me off. I have the bombs cutting me off, too. No, I'm playing, man, I'm playing.
It's okay. But no, I mean,
was going to do some clam collecting of his own and try to weather this push. However, there's a lot of backline support set up high and playing the defensive game, as frankly they should.
Yeah, and this is one of the rare opportunities in Splatoon that you can just play pure defense to be able to win. But the problem is there are a lot of power clams coming out of the sky that are blue, and that's going to be the lead.
There you go. 3 consecutive power clams going to take the lead, and now all of a sudden putting 72 points on the board.
Yeah, no, with only 10 seconds left, this is basically an overtime push. Even if the clam goes in before overtime, the only significant actions after that are going to be in overtime. Now, of course, the Krew has kind of shown dominance in a lot of their team fights. So as far as being able to slay and get picks in this kind of a situation, the Krew probably can have what it takes, but the problem is overtime pushes can be ended so fast. You only have 20 seconds to actually get to the goal, and even though they're getting some picks right now, they're not putting clams in. We see some yellow kind of moving towards the enemy base, and
they got it!
They got it, but can they get the lead? No. Yes.
Oh, 1 power clam will do it, and indeed it does!
Whew.
And just like that, and they knew that they were being forced to the left of the basket on the Salts' side, but the Krew, nonetheless, they persist. Everything going. It's like rugby. You pass back, you pass back until eventually you get that try. Yeah, shout outs to Sports Ball. Either way, those combined 29 kills by the mini Splatlings playing dividends. Take that and rewind it back. Nezzy, again, as you saw that early action coming in with those kills, and could have very well have been picked off right there, but it was so key for that initial push to get those initial 2 splats to allow his team to push back up and to get the lead to begin with.
Yeah, you know, and it's also worth pointing out to that effect that that game came down to that last power clam, and that was the last jump in that was possible. So if the lead wasn't gained right then, that would have been it. The Salts would have won. But because they were able to kind of get those smaller pushes earlier in the game, there was less points to get to that past that 34-point mark, right? So those things actually did add up. And it's also, I think it's significant that you mentioned that the Splatlings had like those high KAs, because knowing how Splatlings tend to play, a lot of those are probably assists and probably combat assists. I mean, I know that there's point sensors involved for the remix, but honestly, I don't know if you noticed it, but I didn't really see that many people marked. So those are probably a lot of combat assists, and that's exactly the way a comp like this wants to play. You want to have those 2 Splatlings being able to just paint and get map control, and have high levels of combat participation, so that the Slayers can kind of come and sweep in, can pick up kills, either by using one of the Splatlings that is a distraction, or using some of that paint and chip damage to kind of run in, just one-shot something. And we saw a lot of that in that game. So even though that team comp is maybe a little bit weird looking to some, how it kind of has like no real front line, except for, you know, the slasher deco, which typically, you know, typical wisdom says you don't want to have your slasher deco be the only Slayer. In this case, it was a good thing.
And as you saw, that push from the side, they knew that they were going to try to zig, and instead the Krew zags and eventually gets that lead with the, as you said, the very last power clam possible. So as they take the lead 1-0 going into splat zones at Camp Triggerfish, I could imagine perhaps we'll see Zorre switch over to that heavy splatling for a little bit more of a stationary setup.
Yeah, right. Having some kind of Stingray, or if he can even go Charger, or some kind of as far as backlines go, I think that as long as he's going to Stingray weapon, it's a really good thing. Now, there are some really crazy cheap tactics that you can do with Explasher on this map. It looks like neither team is going to choose it. It's kind of like Splat 1 Dynamo, where you can kind of stand behind the zone and keep flicking over and over into zones so that the enemy team can't get points. The Explasher works that way in this game, but it looks like we're not going to see it. Instead, I think we should have our eyes on that camo tent umbrella. I mean, I've been very vocal about it. I think it's the best weapon in the game. A lot of others do as well, and it is very good on this map. So I think that basically where that camo tent is going is where important things are.
It's certainly one of the most prominent new additions of the game, and really just forget about how much the game has changed since the last Nintendo tournament 1 year ago. I mean, let's talk about how much the game has changed in the past week.
Yeah, I mean, there was just a big balance change. Now, as far as this weapon got a damage nerf that affects like long-range combat, but that's not really why this weapon is good. The weapon is good because you can't kill the dang thing, and it has ways to just get very easy special-based kills. Now we see the hammer being popped. We see everyone from the Salts being pushed back by this hammer, and it seems like there's another special going down as well. So this is going to secure the Krew's ability to kind of hold hold the Salt zone, but not necessarily to get any picks. And actually, it looks like the Krew is going to be the first team to lose a member in this firefight right now. So it seems they're backing off. They know that they can't really hold this push anymore. Bomb rush goes off, armor goes off, and now the Salt is giving a push back out. The question is, can they get a lot of picks and actually get full control after getting this penalty?
I sort of suspected the flank to come in from the other side just because they were so middle heavy.
Everybody's kind of tunneled on that one spot, right?
Yeah, exactly. The Krew were all kind of pushing up the middle, and eventually the Salts finding a way around to the other side and drawing the fire away from their own Splat zone. So well maneuvered by the Salts. However, it's going to be the Krew that still
knows where you are.
maintain the lead.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, there ain't no hiding from that dude. He's got a scope and he knows how to use it. Zorre picking people off here at Smash and Splash 5.
He barely missed out on that double kill right there across the way. That would have been really huge. They do have the lead, though, and they are getting points, but it would have been so much nicer if they had a little bit more of a secure lead. We'll see how this ends up working out. Now, Emmett here, he does have the armor at the ready, and he is able to push up. Is he going to be able to win this one-on-one? Looks like he's being pushed back by a long-range weapon. The Krew now using the Booyah Up Bomb. Will it take out Emmett? It will. Will his teammate get taken out, though? No. So there is still a presence of the Salts pushing up right now, but it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to extra map control until something like that happens.
There you go. But either way, as long as you're able to cut into the penalty, it's all good in the hood. So say the Krew, who again, with how long they've been in competitive gaming, I mean, we're talking all the way back 2013, 2014, when they were playing stuff like Marvel versus Capcom or Injustice or whatever the case may be. They're no strangers to the competitive world. So as Leaf breaking out the hammer, I don't know how good Thor was in any of those NBC games, but you know, it's whatever.
I mean, there was that one Japanese player who was really good with Thor. He would do like Tron Thor and like something crazy, and he would just like come to America and take all our money. But
dude, I mean, have you seen Japanese Smash players? They can be good with anyone.
Oh yeah.
Raito made top 8 last year with Duck Hunt. Explain that.
I don't want to go too far into Japanese fighting game players, but as far as things like Marvel goes, I really love watching fighting game tournaments, and I think that there's some really awesome Japanese fighting games, especially for like the obscure ones where you wouldn't expect Japan to play it. They can be really good. But we are not playing a fighting game right now. We are playing a shooter.
It's a fighting game, just becomes.
Well, actually, you know, fighting game players tend to be actually pretty good at this. The way a lot of the fundamentals work, kind of similar to like footsies and stuff like that. So you'd be surprised. But that all being said, we are in a situation right now.
Well, I mean, the Krew were proof positive of it.
Yeah.
PK Starstorm and a bit of a kerfuffle.
Yeah, I don't want to get sniped again. Well, he's almost at missiles right now. And here's the thing: there is no penalty on the board. Oh, but there are 2 members down from the Salts. That could have been a situation right there where 13 more seconds on the clock. But the Krew actually has not yet gotten a penalty. So if the Salts is able to kind of make a play right now, they could definitely get the lead. But this sniper being taken out, taken off guard right now by Nezzy. Nezzy's going to try to get this penalty, but he gets taken out by people that responded to the call, and it looks like there's no penalty on the board.
Yeah, no, you don't really need to kick down the front door on Camp Triggerfish when you have so many windows to break into.
And there it is.
And that's why I'm not allowed on the Broad Street subway anymore. But either way, the Salts looking to take the lead here, and indeed they will at the very last second. The Salts very much in a position to come back, especially with 4-2 on the field. But Zorre, with that high marker, the key could very well be just taking him off of that high post, just to be able for that push to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the push is super important. I mean, like you were saying, man, this is not a map where brute force necessarily does it. This is a map about the end game, about having the chess pieces in the right spots, and man, the Salts just put their chess pieces in the correct locations. I mean, you saw basically through the last set and through the beginning, the last game and the beginning of this game, that the Krew was, they were outslaying, they were kind of dominating, but over time, the Salts kind of adapted, right? They kept people alive in the right spots, and there was that period of like 45 seconds where the Krew was just trying to get that penalty, and they weren't able to. And every single time that the Krew took out a member of the Salts, other members responded, got the revenge kill, and then went back to playing objective patiently. And like you said, because this is, that kind of map, that ended up getting them the win. It was a very close game, I will say, because, with a penalty involved, I'm not sure if the Salts would have been able to necessarily, get those points as quickly as they did when it came to overtime. If it wasn't overtime, maybe a little bit different, but because it was overtime, if you lose the control of the zone once, you can't keep going. Exactly.
I mean, it says Vince Lombardi once said, we didn't lose, we just ran out of time. And that could very well be the case for the Krew. I mean, the game plan was there. It's just, sometimes you get got at the very last second. And indeed, the Salts, persistence pays off, and they will go to a 1-1 draw as we head into Rainmaker at Black Belly Skate Park. So obviously, we're
So
going to be
about
seeing
brute
that.
force.
Oh yeah, here we go.
So this is definitely a map where brute force is the key. We would expect a lot of close range aggressive weapons, a lot of ways to push explosively, a lot of ways to just get that pop and go. You know, bomb rushes, booyah bombs, ink storms, stuff like that. So we see some ink storms. We see dapples coming out. So this is pretty interesting. So we have a couple really good ways to pop Rainmaker. We have a Charger coming out of both sides with a Ray, and we are going to have a matchup of a Splatter Scope versus an Unscoped Charger. So one more aggressive than the other, obviously one better at getting Stingray than the other. So we're just going to see how it works. Now, right now, the Krew gets the initial pop. They pick up the Rainmaker, and Nezzy and this person actually get some picks. So the Rainmaker's going to be able to push up. Now, that left side push does not necessarily get points right away. So it's going to be a while before they can actually get into like that kind of 40, 30 point zone that's actually significant. But if they keep getting picks like this,
Oh,
it'll
wait
happen.
a second. I think you might have to eat your words there. Iduli with the carry, and what a setup, just like that. Oh my goodness, the Krew straight speed running here on Game 3. Shout out to Kazucha Okada making it rain on Black Belly Skate Park.
I mean, I thought that Speedruns Live didn't play Splatoon anymore, but apparently they do. I want to say that Black Belly Skate Park would be in the Krew's favor. I think that we've seen that as far as slaying goes, as far as, getting picks, just winning fights specifically.
Look at how early they went down, 3-1, allowing, again, you're talking about setting up those chess pieces in perfect position for the second game. And honestly,
that slow motion fizzy bomb. I'm sorry, I just had to point that out.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it just comes out of nowhere. I mean, and quite literally for the opposition as well.
Yeah.
So Iduli, as
I'm
we
actually
saw,
surprised he didn't die right here. Like,
honestly, the way that I view Rainmaker, and this is going to sound weird, but it's kind of like football in terms of the Russian game, where you really do rely on your blockers getting downfield to getting to that second level.
Oh, yeah.
And Iduli, what else can Iduli do aside from run in and just boom, score the touchdown?
Yeah,
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, Bitmap, he's playing as Iduli. So the thing is, everybody think that Bitmap just plays Brella, and he does not like the he does not like the false advertisement. So he's just gonna play as Iduli, so everyone knows that he actually plays something besides Brella. But
fair enough.
Man, I think that you're onto a lot of things as far as Rainmaker is concerned, right? Like you can't push from behind the Rainmaker. You can't let the vulnerable person with the objective be the first person to walk into enemy bullets. So, so naturally you want to push up in front of the Rainmaker. It's just the way that the Krew executed it was just phenomenal.
So as we get to, again, Bitmap, well, you broke out the Brella, as you say that. So there is a term in the Smash community called the commentator's curse. It's a bit of a cliche, but nonetheless, they're going to try to ride the tower on to victory. Will the Krew, but the Salts certainly will have something to say about that. That blaster coming out, but not for long. Nezzy with that Kensa splatter shot. Not a bad choice, but wow. Okay, bad Alfie, straight cutting him off.
Man, that torpedo right there coming out of that Kensa undercover bill. Choosing to play one of the best weapons in the game in Kensa undercover is not a bad thing. And because there is a blaster on the side of the Salt, it's a little bit of a bad matchup for that blaster. Basically, the Kensa undercover bell is able to spam those torpedoes so much that any kind of weapon that relies on stealth and being sneaky and kind of, sharking and sneaking up on people is going to be detected by those torpedoes over and over and over again. And even if it doesn't get any damage in on you, it gives the other team, information about where you're hiding, and it takes away the one thing that makes a lot of those weapons work. But right now, the Krew is pushing up really, really far. They are pushing tower past that first checkpoint, and that is a big deal. If they get past the second checkpoint, they're in trouble.
The Krew have been keeping it at 4-2 so consistently, and that allowed them to push up. And sometimes you don't need total team wipes. All you need is just those little picks, one by one by one, and there you go. A sea of green carries the Krew to victory. They win by a score of 3-1.
Yeah, like you said, those split respawns coming out of the Salts really put them at an impossible disadvantage. It's kind of what happened a little bit in the Rainmaker game as well. Now, for the you know, to credit the Krew, obviously that Rainmaker push was just beautiful. But at the same time, you know, the Salts, when they are in a situation where they're down, takebacks are a really important part of Splatoon. And if your takebacks are just, you know, going into a 2v4 and kind of letting, you know, oh, we're going to respawn and die, and now that we left our 2 teammates, you know, alone, they're going to go and die and respawn. Yeah, and you really have to just kind of be patient, get 4 people grouped up when you're, you know, when you're not in control of the objective. It's easier to get specials as well, and then take the advantage that you gain by being in a, you know, an easier defensive position, probably with some specials, then push off that. But man, you know, having those split spawns just kind of keep everybody dying separately, that's not the way to do it.